This book was introduced to me by a dear friend, someone whose recommendations I deeply trust. I'd never read anything by Brené Brown before, but this turned out to be an extraordinary starting point. It's not your typical book, it's a collection of live sessions where Brené speaks directly to her audience, weaving her insights with raw honesty and deep compassion. From the moment I started, I felt like I was sitting in a room with her, soaking in wisdom that felt both intimate and universal. The heart of this book is all about how to live a life that is wholehearted. What does that mean? It means showing up fully in every moment, embracing vulnerability, courage, gratitude, and love. It's about daring to let yourself be seen, flaws and all, and stepping into a life that's messy, beautiful, and entirely your own. Let me tell you, the sessions in this book are not just inspiring, they're life-changing. I'd even go so far as to say that this is one of the most impactful books I've read all year. It's not just a book, it's a guide, a friend, and a wake-up call all rolled into one. Here's the thing about wholehearted living, it's not easy. Brené doesn't sugarcoat that. But she also makes it crystal clear that not living wholeheartedly is much harder. It's dangerous, she says, to stand on the sidelines of your own life, looking in and wondering, what if? What if I had tried? What if I had spoken up? What if I had let myself love fully? That kind of regret can haunt you, and it's far worse than the discomfort of stepping into the arena of life. Now, let me share some of the golden nuggets from this book, quotes that hit me like lightning bolts. Nobody reaches out to you for compassion and empathy so that you can teach them how to behave better. This one. It's a gut check. How often do we think we're helping someone when, in reality, we're judging them or trying to fix them? Brené reminds us that true compassion means simply being there. It's about creating a safe space for others, not a classroom for correction. Vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage. Think about that for a moment. Society often teaches us to hide our vulnerabilities, to armor up, and to never let anyone see us struggle. But Brené flips that script. She says that being vulnerable, admitting when we're scared, showing when we're hurt, is the bravest thing we can do. It's in those moments that we truly connect with others. To be the parents, partners, people, and professionals we want to be, we have to open up all those places we've shut down. This one feels personal, doesn't it? How many of us have closed parts of ourselves off because it felt safer? Maybe it's a part of us that got hurt in the past or a dream we gave up on because we were afraid to fail. Brené gently, but firmly, pushes us to reopen those doors. The people we love, the lives we want to lead, they're waiting on the other side. What is more dangerous than staying on the outside of our lives, looking in, and wondering what it would be like if we showed up? This question pierced my soul. How many of us are living half-lives, watching from the sidelines as life passes us by? Brené challenges us to take that leap, to stop being spectators and start being participants. The risks are real, but so are the rewards. The one difference that joyful people have is that they actively practice gratitude. Joy doesn't just happen to us, it's a practice, a choice. Brené teaches that gratitude is the secret ingredient. Even on the hard days, especially on the hard days, finding something to be thankful for can change everything. Wholeheartedness is hard, but not fully living our lives is much harder and much more dangerous. This is the truth that ties it all together. Living wholeheartedly takes effort. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, and it requires courage. But the alternative, living half-heartedly, hiding behind walls of fear and self-doubt, that's far more exhausting. And it's a weight no one should carry. This book is not just a read, it's a call to action. I urge you to pick it up and let it challenge you, inspire you, and guide you. Live every day with your heart wide open. Show up, be seen, and embrace the beauty of living wholeheartedly. And if you need a little help getting started, let Brené's words be your guide, they've certainly been mine. Why we struggle, culture and scarcity. In today's world, we live in a culture of scarcity, a pervasive sense of never enough. It whispers to us constantly. Not good enough. Not rich enough. Not safe enough. Not relevant enough. This mindset keeps us in a cycle of striving and dissatisfaction, always feeling like we're falling short. It's no wonder that wholehearted living feels like an impossible dream in such an environment. But Brené Brown challenges us to step out of this scarcity mindset and into a life of connection, authenticity, and courage. The core of wholeheartedness, love and belonging. At the very heart of being human are two fundamental needs, love and belonging. Without them, suffering is inevitable. These aren't luxuries, they're essential. But here's the catch, love and belonging can only flourish when we're willing to let ourselves be truly seen. Cultivating love. Love is not just an emotion, it's a spiritual connection that grows when we allow our vulnerable, powerful selves to be known. Love requires trust, respect, kindness, and affection. Without these, it cannot thrive. Here's a truth that hits hard, we can only love others as much as we love ourselves. If self-criticism or shame dominate our inner world, love has no fertile ground to grow. When shame, blame, betrayal, or the withholding of affection take root, love becomes fragile. It can only survive if these wounds are acknowledged, healed, and made rare. The quest for belonging. Belonging isn't about fitting in or seeking approval, those are hollow substitutes. True belonging happens only when we show up as our authentic, imperfect selves. The mantra is simple yet profound. Don't shrink. Don't puff up. Just stand your sacred ground. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. That's why Brené emphasizes this empowering truth, the people who feel a deep sense of belonging are those who believe they are worthy of it. The role of vulnerability. Vulnerability, while uncomfortable, is the key to wholehearted living. It's where the magic happens. Vulnerability is the birthplace of joy, love, creativity, and connection. Yes, it's also where fear and shame reside, but the rewards of opening up far outweigh the risks. The mantra here is to show up and let yourself be seen. The work of wholehearted people. Wholehearted people don't just dream about love and belonging, they live it. Here's how. They embrace vulnerability as a strength, not a weakness. They hold themselves accountable through authenticity, actions, and making amends. They actively cultivate self-love, knowing that it's the foundation for loving others. A call to action. What Brené Brown offers is not just an insight, it's an invitation to rewrite the narrative of our lives. Instead of succumbing to the culture of scarcity, we can step into a life that celebrates vulnerability, authenticity, and the courage to connect. The question isn't whether you'll struggle, the struggle is universal. The question is, will you show up? Will you dare to live wholeheartedly? Understanding shame, the silent saboteur. Shame is a universal emotion, it spares no one. As Brené Brown boldly puts it, the only people who don't experience shame are psychopaths. Yet, it's also one of the least talked about and most misunderstood aspects of our emotional landscape. The irony is this. The less we talk about shame, the more it thrives, spreading its influence quietly and destructively. To truly navigate shame, we must distinguish it from its close cousins, guilt, humiliation, and embarrassment. The four faces of self-conscious emotion. Shame. Shame whispers, I am bad. It's a deep, personal attack on your self-worth, a focus on who you are rather than what you've done. Shame doesn't inspire growth, it paralyzes. It convinces you that you're unworthy of love, connection, or belonging. Guilt. Guilt, by contrast, says, I did something bad. It focuses on behavior, not identity, and can actually be a catalyst for positive change. Humiliation. Humiliation feels like shame, but it's tempered by a critical difference, the belief that you didn't deserve the treatment you received. Embarrassment. The gentlest of the four, embarrassment is temporary and often shared. It's the moment you trip on a sidewalk or mispronounce a word, but it passes, often with humor. The grip of shame, hustling for worthiness. Shame traps us in a cycle of self-doubt and the relentless hustle for worthiness. It convinces us that our stories, mistakes, or imperfections make us unlovable. But here's the liberating truth. Worthiness has no prerequisites. You are not your mistakes, and your value isn't tied to perfection. In fact, trying to sever yourself from the parts of your story that don't fit society's ideals only gives shame more power. Responding to shame, fight back with ownership. When shame strikes, we have two choices. Walk into our stories and own them. This is the path to liberation and authenticity. Stand outside our stories and hustle for worthiness. This only strengthens shame's hold over us. The antidote lies in ownership. Shame loses its power when we say, "This is my story, and it does not define my worth." Building shame resilience. Shame resilience isn't about avoiding shame, it's about moving through it with courage and authenticity. Here's how people with strong shame resilience do it. Recognize shame. They know what shame is, what triggers it, and when they're in its grip. Reality check. They critically examine the societal expectations and messages that fuel their shame. Share their stories. Vulnerability is key, they reach out, tell their stories, and find connection. Name shame. They don't tiptoe around the word. Calling it by name robs it of its secrecy and power. At its core, shame is the fear of being unlovable. But when we cultivate empathy, for ourselves and others, we weaken shame's foundation. The power of empathy. Empathy is shame's kryptonite. It allows us to step into each other's experiences with compassion, offering connection instead of judgment. When we share our struggles, we give others permission to do the same, breaking shame's cycle. The 3 responses to shame. When shame strikes, we tend to react in one of 3 ways. Move away. We withdraw, hide, and keep secrets. Move towards. We people please, hoping approval will erase the shame. Move against. We use anger or aggression to fight shame with more shame. But true resilience means stepping into shame authentically, facing it, and coming out stronger. Final wisdom. Shame doesn't define you unless you let it. It's a part of the human experience, but it's not the sum of who you are. By embracing vulnerability, sharing your stories, and practicing empathy, you can loosen shame's grip and live a life rooted in authenticity and connection. So, the next time shame gremlins whisper, "You're not enough," respond with this truth. I am enough because I choose to own my story, flaws and all. Empathy and vulnerability, the shields against shame. Shame is a silent, insidious force. It thrives in the shadows, feeding on secrecy, silence, and judgment. The less we talk about it, the stronger it becomes. But there's good news, shame has a mortal enemy, and that enemy is empathy. Why empathy dismantles shame? Empathy creates an environment where shame cannot survive. Imagine shame as a fire, it burns hotter with secrecy, silence, and judgment as fuel. Empathy is the water that douses the flames. When we offer empathy to someone struggling, we say, "I see you. I've been there too." These 2 words, "me too," are the most powerful antidote to shame. Empathy isn't about fixing or offering advice, it's about connection. It's about sitting in the darkness with someone and saying, "I'm here with you. You're not alone." The gendered roots of shame. Shame wears different masks depending on gender. For women, shame often stems from appearance and body image. The constant societal pressures to be beautiful, thin, and flawless create a relentless struggle. For men, the driver is clear: don't be weak. Vulnerability or any perceived lack of strength becomes a source of deep shame. This is why vulnerability, often viewed as weakness, requires immense courage. Choosing the right people to share your story. Not everyone is ready or worthy to hear your story. When sharing your vulnerability, choose people who have earned the right to listen. These are individuals who offer safety, trust, and understanding. When we share our pain with the wrong audience, those who judge or dismiss, it reinforces shame. But when we share with someone empathetic, shame loses its grip. The 4 qualities of empathy. Empathy isn't just an emotion, it's a skill, beautifully outlined by Teresa Wiseman. To truly offer empathy, you must see the world as others see it, step into their shoes without judgment. Be non-judgmental. Judgment blocks empathy from forming. Recognize emotions in others, feel their feelings as they experience them. Communicate your understanding, let them know they're seen and heard. Empathy doesn't require solutions. It requires presence. Why and how we judge. Judgment often masks our own vulnerabilities. We judge in areas where we feel most insecure. We pick people who appear to be struggling more than us, creating a false sense of superiority. The harsh reality. The areas where we're most judgmental reveal where shame has its deepest roots in our lives. Compassion, the deepest form of empathy. Compassion isn't about pity or superiority. It's about knowing your own darkness so deeply that you can sit with someone else in theirs. It's not about being the healed one helping the wounded. Compassion is a relationship between equals, a mutual acknowledgement of humanity. As Brené Brown reminds us, nobody reaches out for compassion and empathy so you can teach them to behave better. They reach out because they trust your capacity to understand their pain. Empathy versus sympathy. It's crucial to understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. Empathy says, "Me too. I understand. I'm here with you." It's about connection. Sympathy says, "You poor thing. I feel sorry for you." It's about separation. Sympathy unintentionally reinforces shame by positioning the struggler as other or lesser. Empathy, on the other hand, bridges the gap and creates solidarity. Final words of wisdom. Empathy is a gift, not just to others, but to yourself. It's a reminder that we are all human, all flawed, and all worthy of love and connection. When someone reaches out, they're not looking for solutions or fixes. They're looking for a hand to hold, someone to sit with them in the dark. And when you show up with empathy, you're saying, you don't have to go through this alone. Together, we can face the darkness and find the light. Myths about vulnerability, uncovering the truth. Myth 1, vulnerability is weakness. The most pervasive misconception about vulnerability is that it's a flaw, a sign of frailty. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Vulnerability is not a character defect, it's courage in its rawest form. Think about it, vulnerability means exposing yourself to uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Whether it's expressing love without guarantees or taking a leap into the unknown, these acts require immense bravery. Every time you allow yourself to be seen, truly seen, you're demonstrating profound strength. Myth 2, I don't do vulnerability. The truth? You do vulnerability every day. Loving someone without controlling their feelings or safety. Vulnerability. Taking risks in your career or personal life. Vulnerability. Even those who claim they avoid vulnerability are still engaging with it, it's an unavoidable part of being human. Many of us shut down parts of ourselves in middle school, when the pain of being vulnerable feels too much. But as we grow older, we come to a realization. To be the parents, partners, and people we aspire to be, we must reopen those places we've sealed off. Without embracing vulnerability, we cut ourselves off from the joy, connection, and fulfillment we deserve. Myth 3, we can go it alone. The rugged individualist myth, the idea that we don't need anyone else, is a lie. True connection is born from vulnerability. Loving someone is not about ignoring their vulnerabilities but embracing them. When we refuse to lean on others or share our struggles, we rob ourselves of the chance to experience deep, meaningful relationships. Myth 4, trust comes before vulnerability. Here's the paradox, trust and vulnerability are inseparable. We often think we need to trust someone fully before showing vulnerability. But in reality, trust is built through vulnerability, it's a loop, not a sequence. The pain of betrayal. Vulnerability opens the door to profound connection, but it also leaves us exposed to betrayal. Two forms of betrayal hit the hardest. Exploitation of vulnerability. When we share openly with someone and they use that against us, it cuts deep. Imagine loving someone wholeheartedly only to be betrayed. That's vulnerability turned against us. Disengagement. This subtler betrayal happens when people emotionally withdraw. They stop being vulnerable, leaving the relationship stagnant. Disengagement is often a self-defense mechanism against vulnerability, but it damages trust and connection. It's a slippery slope that can lead to gaslighting and disconnection. The ultimate risk, staying on the sidelines. Vulnerability is scary. Risk and exposure feel dangerous. But ask yourself, what's more dangerous than standing on the sidelines of your own life, wondering what it would be like to show up fully? Life happens when we step into the arena, risks and all. Vulnerability is the bridge between who we are and who we want to become. So, the next time fear whispers, stay safe, stay small, remember. The greatest danger lies not in risking vulnerability, but in never risking it at all. The Vulnerability Armory, breaking down the barriers to connection. In the quest to protect ourselves from vulnerability, many of us unknowingly wear vulnerability armor, emotional shields designed to minimize pain but end up cutting us off from joy, growth, and genuine connection. The three most common types of this armor are foreboding joy, perfectionism, and numbing. 1. The armor of foreboding joy. Imagine experiencing a moment of pure joy, only to be interrupted by a wave of dread. This is foreboding joy, a defensive mechanism where we anticipate something bad happening when things are going well. Why it happens? Joy is the most vulnerable emotion we experience. Fully embracing it makes us feel exposed, as though the happiness will be snatched away. Don't get too happy, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. How it manifests. Parents checking on their sleeping children, fearing the worst. Holding back excitement about good news, bracing for disappointment. The cure, gratitude. After 12 years of research, one clear distinction emerged: joyful people actively practice gratitude. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's an intentional practice. Whether it's keeping a journal, expressing thanks before meals, or savoring ordinary moments, gratitude grounds us in the present and allows us to experience joy without fear. Lessons from trauma survivors. They miss ordinary, everyday moments like the sound of kids arguing. They find healing in seeing others express gratitude. They emphasize, don't squander joy. If we constantly anticipate disappointment, we rob ourselves of living fully. It's better to embrace joy wholeheartedly than live in perpetual disappointment, fearing what might go wrong. 2. The armor of perfectionism. Perfectionism might seem like a noble pursuit, but it's anything but what it really is. Perfectionism isn't about being your best, it's about seeking external approval. It's a shield we carry, thinking it will protect us from shame, blame, and criticism. If I'm perfect, no one can judge me. Why it's harmful? It blocks authenticity. instead of showing who we are, we present a polished facade. It's exhausting. The endless pursuit of perfect wastes time and energy, leaving us burnt out. It's addictive. When perfectionism fails to protect us from criticism, we double down, striving to be even more perfect next time. Perfectionism versus healthy striving. Perfectionism relies on external validation. What will people think of me? Healthy striving is fueled by internal motivation. How can I grow and improve for myself? Why it's dangerous. Perfectionism gets in the way of creativity, leadership, and our true potential. Transformative leaders don't agonize over perfecting every email, they focus on meaningful progress. To give up who we truly are in an effort to appear flawless is a tragic waste. Perfectionism doesn't protect us, it imprisons us. 3. The armor of numbing. While not detailed here, numbing is the final piece of vulnerability armor. It involves dulling our feelings through distractions, whether it's overwork, overconsumption, or avoidance. Numbing shields us from pain, but it also blocks joy, connection, and purpose. True courage lies in facing our emotions head-on. The takeaway. Our vulnerability armor may feel like protection, but it keeps us from living fully and authentically. Let go of foreboding joy by practicing gratitude. Release perfectionism by embracing imperfection and focusing on internal growth. Confront numbing by allowing yourself to feel, even when it's uncomfortable. When we dare to drop the armor, we open ourselves to true connection, joy, and transformation. It's in our vulnerability that we find our greatest strength. The armor of numbing. Numbing as a shield, overuse of distractions, like excessive social media, hinders presence and engagement in life. Numbing blocks vulnerability and connection. Distinction between numbing and comfort. Numbing is avoiding life's challenges, comfort rejuvenates. Smaller pieces of vulnerability armor. Victim or Viking, a worldview of extremes, either dominated or dominating, limits possibilities for joy and connection. Serpentine, avoiding essential tasks with excessive detours. Floodlighting, oversharing to feel connected but losing authenticity. Smash and grab, sharing shocking information to demand attention. Sympathy-seeking, craving pity to feel validated. Cruelty, cynicism, criticism, and cool, negative behaviors, like judging others, e.g., a parent with a crying child, make the world harsher rather than empathetic. Victim or Viking mentality. A harmful perspective, living as if life is, kill or be killed, is detrimental, especially outside high-stakes scenarios like combat. Beyond survival, true joy and purpose require moving past this lens to embrace love, belonging, and vulnerability. 10 guideposts for wholehearted living. 1. Cultivating authenticity. Let go of worrying about what others think. Definition: authenticity is practicing courage, setting boundaries, and embracing imperfection daily. Mantra: choose discomfort over resentment. Saying no with courage avoids later resentment. 2. Cultivating self-compassion. Replace perfectionism with kindness, shared humanity, and mindfulness. Acknowledge universal struggles, letting go of isolating shame. 3. Cultivating your resilient spirit. Live in alignment with your true self. Avoid numbing, which stems from incongruent living. Spirituality, a belief in connection through love and compassion, offers meaning and purpose. 4. Cultivating gratitude and joy. Gratitude is an active, daily practice. Embrace joy without fear of losing it. 5. Cultivating intuition and trusting faith. Let go of the need for certainty. Intuition blends instinct, experience, and reason. Faith, trust the unknown, finding courage in life's mysteries. 6. Cultivating creativity. Comparison stifles creativity. Sharing creative work is a vulnerable but vital expression of the human spirit. 7. cultivating play and rest. Reject productivity as self-worth. Embrace play to combat exhaustion and depression. Play, timeless, purpose-free, joyful engagement.